Little Yip Yip and His Bark. One morning a very small puppy woke up in a brand new doghouse. He sniffed at the cozy dark inside, and he licked at the bright blue outside. Then he blinked his eyes and looked all around the big, busy barnyard. "It's a wonderful place," he said to himself, "but oh my, isn't it big!" Just as he said that, all the big barnyard animals came running up to him. "Are you the new watchdog?" asked the ducks. The little puppy liked that watchdog idea. He smiled and wagged his tail. "I guess I am," he said. "Well then," crowed the big rooster, "let's hear your big watchdog bark." The puppy stood up tall and opened his mouth. He took a deep breath and he barked, "Yip, yip, yip." The rooster turned to the pigs. "Did you hear anything?" he asked. "We heard something," squealed the pigs. "It sounded like a squeaky shoe." And the calf said she thought it sounded like a baby robin calling its mother. All the animals laughed and ran away very busily, and the puppy went into his new house. "Maybe my barking isn't all it should be," he said, and he ran out into the sunshine to practice. But before he had time for one yip, a great, big, black dog came bounding up. That big dog tasted the puppy's milk, and he nibbled the puppy's biscuit. "Puppy food," he snorted. "I'll come back when you have some real food for me to eat up." And he walked away with his head in the air. The little puppy felt so cross that he barked until that big dog was out of sight. "Yip, yip, yip," he barked. A little field mouse on its way to the corn crib heard that little bark. It jumped when it heard the first yip, but when it heard the second and third, it sat down and laughed until the tears dripped off its whiskers. "Hoo-hoo!" laughed the little mouse. "I have baby mice at home who can bark louder than that." "Is that so?" cried the puppy. He ran at the mouse with all his sharp little teeth showing. "I'll bite you into 3 pieces," he barked, and he chased the mouse across the barnyard. "I'll bite—" But the mouse was gone. It had disappeared through the cracks in the corn crib, and the puppy was chasing nobody at all. "Well," he barked proudly, "I guess I scared him all right." And then he heard all the mice in the corn crib barking little tiny barks. "Yip, yip, yip," they laughed. "Yip, yip! Oh, what a watchdog!" He looked for something bigger to scare, and just as it was getting dark he saw something much bigger. A slim, sly red fox came creeping into the barnyard. He slithered straight toward the hen house, and he looked so mean and hungry that the little puppy backed away from him. "I'll have to bark louder than ever this time," he whispered bravely, and he backed right into an empty milk pail. "You have to bark very loud to scare a fox." The sly fox crept nearer and nearer and nearer to the hen house, licking his chops and snickering to himself. And then, all at once, the puppy took a deep breath and barked. When that little bark came out of the milk pail, it wasn't a little yip, yip, yip at all. It echoed and rumbled around in the pail, and when it came out, it was a fine, big bark. It went bow, wow, wow, and it was so loud that the puppy jumped in the air, pail and all. "Help!" squealed the fox. He turned head over heels, and away he ran as fast as he could go. The puppy picked himself up and barked a little yip yip. He ran back into the pail and barked a big bow wow. "Now I know how to scare the wits out of anything," he cried. "All I have to do is hide in an empty something before I bark." And he trotted back to his brand new house with his little tail wagging so fast that it looked like a pinwheel. Early the next morning, a family of very hungry rabbits hopped into the farm garden. They chewed tunnels in the biggest cabbages and hopped through the tunnels. They bit big holes in the middle-sized cabbages and little holes in the tiny little cabbages. "Rabbits in the cabbage patch!" the rooster crowed, "spoiling the whole cabbage patch!" The little puppy woke up with a start. He ran across the barnyard and into the garden, barking his little yip, yip, yip. And the rabbits stopped eating just long enough to swallow what they had in their mouths. Then they jumped up and down on a row of young cabbages, laughing at the sleepy little bark. "Oh, bad!" yipped the puppy. He started toward his milk pail, and then he said, "Oh, good!" and scampered into an empty barrel that was lying at the edge of the cabbage patch. "Now for my best rabbit-scaring bark," thought the little puppy. He closed his eyes and puffed out his chest and barked as loudly as he could. The big echoey barrel rolled the sound out, big and loud, into the garden. "Bow, wow, wow!" It came out such a big bow, wow, wow, that the rabbits' ears stood on end. "Watchdogs!" they cried. "At least 4 great big ones!" They hopped lickety-split out of the cabbage patch and over the fence. In 1 second there wasn't a rabbit to be seen. "That was even better than the milk pail," laughed the little puppy. Then he thought he might find something still louder. He nosed all around the farm, barking in every empty thing he found. He barked in a rusty milk can, and he barked in a big round pipe. And then one day he found an old oil drum. He ran in that and barked, "Where's that big black dog now?" And it sounded like this: "Bow, wow, 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 wow!" The puppy liked that oil drum bark. He practiced it every day, and every day his own little bark grew bigger and bigger, but he never noticed that. The farmer didn't like all this noise. "You are a fine watchdog, little puppy," he said, "but you'll have to use your own little bark after tomorrow, because I'm going to clean up the farm." The next day, while the farmer worked, the puppy ran at his heels. "Oh, don't take my barrel," he barked, and he barked, "Don't take my oil drum," and then he barked, "And don't take my milk can or that old pipe. Oh, I need those old pails." But into the junk wagon they went. "All my barking things are gone," cried the little puppy. "Now what will I do when that big black dog comes back?" And the very minute he said that, along came the big black dog. He walked boldly through the puppy's barnyard. He walked right up to the little puppy's house. He licked up all the puppy's milk, and then he picked up the puppy's new chewing bone. That was too much for the little puppy. He ran at the big black dog like a small thunderbolt. He was so angry that he barked for all he was worth, and by this time his own bark was a real big bow, wow, wow! It was even bigger than his oil drum bark. The big dog never stopped to see how big the little puppy was. He just dropped that bone and ran, with the puppy snapping at his tail. He jumped over the fence, he raced down the road, and he never came back. Everybody on the farm came running out to see that chase. "Just look at our watchdog," squealed the pigs, "and just listen to his bark. the rooster crowed. The farmer's wife was so pleased that she ran into the house for an old soft pillow. She put it in the doghouse. "It'll make a nice bed for our watchdog," she said. The farmer filled the puppy's bowl with cream. He brought out a little dish of gravy with some fine juicy scraps of meat in it. He put a new chewing bone full of tidbits beside the old chewing bone, and then he whistled a long, loud whistle for the little puppy. When the little puppy got back to his house, he was the most surprised puppy in the whole world. First he barked a good-sized bark to say "thank you," and then he began to eat. He ate until his little sides were as round as a pumpkin. He tried out his lovely new bed. It was so soft and comfortable that he almost fell asleep. But he had one more thing to do. The little puppy stood up on his 4 little feet and wagged his tail, and just to make sure he was really a real watchdog at last, he barked the loudest kind of bark. "Bow, wow, wow!" The end.